Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, an alternate accounts story. Alright, so we are in the final week of the Grand Arena Championships exhibition match. There have already been 9 matches. The alt account here has already won 9 of those, so we're in good standing. We're on the very edge of getting into Kyber already, and let's just see how far we can push it and try to get far into Kyber. Now, before we get too crazy here, I do want to make sure that you guys understand the caveat of this is a alt account, and I have been doing a lot of videos for my main account. It's probably too time intensive to try to get really high quality videos out for both accounts, and so I'm doing this for fun. I am kind of doing this as a stream of consciousness commentary, and so you'll hear all my ums and ahs and all of that. I mean, you hear that in my other videos if we're being honest, but this is probably a little more so than the other videos you've watched, if you've watched any of those in the past. So we have my first opponent here, which I really wasn't that impressed with their front line. There are only 4 total teams on defense in at this level. I'm at the 1.6, not even quite at 1.6, because 1.6 would get me into Division 6, so a little bit lower than that. I think actually when I was locked, I was closer actually to 1.5. But anyways, there's not much in the way of defenses. If you've watched my other alt account videos, you'll know that there haven't been much consistency at all in the teams that I've seen. Some people have really well-developed rosters. Most kind of just don't. I mean, we have Kit Fisto here in the first batch, and I wasn't really that impressed, obviously. I mean, I sent my Gear 9 Ewoks at them and was able to take them out. And really, I mean, the Karth team in the back is probably better geared than any of the other ones in the front, so I was a little bit, maybe not worried. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to take out my opponent's final zone. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to save my best teams for the last, and be able to take out the squads that I could with the lowest level squads that I could. I mean, that's just kind of general principle in Grand Arena anyways. I mean, you want to make sure you're getting the max banners that you can, but if you can beat the other opponent's team, especially at this level, you're not as worried about micromanaging your banner levels. Anyways, this is probably the first and last time I'll ever see this squad combination. I got to see Embo alongside a bunch of Phoenix, which is really, there's not much point. I don't really see, but it kind of just accentuates what kind of level we're facing here at this Division 7. There's not always bad teams and bad players here. Absolutely not. Actually, in my next match, there are some outstanding teams, but in reality, this hasn't been extremely challenging division in terms of what my alts can do, what heights it can be pushed to. So here I'm just taking the CLS trio. I don't really see much point in taking more than that. I was saving them for offense just in case my opponent put their meta team on defense, and they obviously did not. And so that means that my poor bounty hunters on defense are probably going to die a horrible death, or maybe my opponent will get crazy and take out Emperor Palpatine instead. But 62 banners, really pretty easy, pretty obvious. And I'm already back to having a perfect score in terms of if you get 60 banners, I consider that a perfect score, even though I know you can kind of go over that. And I really wanted to see, though, if I could get higher than a perfect score, and this was a really great opportunity. So Bastila, if you have not worked on her at whatever level you're at, Bastila is going to be a good character regardless, but she is especially powerful in the early game. She's got that extra protection boost for the rest of the Jedi that she's with. And I mean, mine is just gear 8, and she doesn't have a Zeta, and she has just facilitated win after win in Grand Arena. You know, like, you see my pretty gaudy record for my alt. I've only lost one match, and that was against, I'm relatively sure, like some whale account, where they had like god mods and ridiculous stuff, and you know, a high end Darth Revan team that my main account would kind of struggle to beat, much less my alt, and they were able to beat me. But otherwise, I haven't lost many matches with my alt, and a lot of the reason is because of Bastila and just gear 8 without the Zeta. It's really amazing. I would highly recommend that, working on her a little bit if possible. So you see in the pictures that I was able to get into Kyber early on. It was pretty awesome. That was really the only league I really cared about. Even for my alt, it's kind of galling to get into Kyber with your alt when your main account is really struggling to get there as well and striving. And, you know, my alt just kind of fell into it. But anyways, the next match is really kind of a total opposite of what my opponent had done in my last round. My last round opponent put nothing on defense. Like, no good team was on defense. And in this one, my opponent had like all of the meta teams. Like, they had Jedi Revan, Darth Revan, Padme, all the things. So I assume that there was a fair amount of money that went into this. And you know, you can see here that my Commander Luke team was, you know, was kind of on the brink here. Like, Bastila was able to get a turn really early on, right after my Han got his first shot off, and so I just had to, you know, roll with it. I mean, this is my only team that I have available to be able to beat Darth Revan, and it wasn't. I was really happy that I was able to beat it, because if not, I don't know that I would have been able to win this thing. You know, at the very least, I needed to be able to take down Darth Revan and Bastila. And, you know, I did. My opponent actually had a ton of Zetas on really relevant teams. You see General, not Darth, Grievous, there with a Zeta on his unique. And even though he's not gear 12 or anything, I mean, at this level, that's kind of scary. There's also this Padme squad that is really good. I decided that I would actually break out my gear 7 Jedi Revan, who has no Omegas and no Zetas on him at all. I kind of just unlocked him because that was the thing to do, but I really don't know when the next time I'll be able to work on this team is. So, in reality, I will just kind of play it by ear. But anyways, we still have Bastila as the lead, because I really wasn't sure if Jedi Revan level 7 leadership was good. I hadn't done any research, and frankly, I didn't have a lot of time in this match. I just needed to get my attack in and go. And my opponent had exactly the wrong kind of roster to kind of approach it that way. You want to kind of think about these rosters that you're going to be trying to counter if possible. But as is the case with my alt, I mean, I really want to succeed with it, but I don't care an enormous amount if I end up winning or not. I mean, I hate to say that, but I'd already made Kyber League, and this was going to be rough. But you see, I got 60 banners here against a Padme squad, just because Bastila's leadership is awesome in Grand Arena. I'm realizing that more and more, actually. Even for my main, I'm starting to use her sometimes. So, my opponent also had a relatively strong bounty hunter squad, and I didn't really have any great answers for that, so I just decided to go with Ewoks because they get a ton of turns. And frankly, I mean, my opponent had all the really good teams, and you could tell that there was some money spent, or maybe they've just been like really slow playing or something, and just, you know, really accumulating Zetas and not doing a whole lot else. But one way or another, I didn't really know how to counter all of these teams on defense. There was a ton of them. And so I just decided I had to use Ewoks. There wasn't really any other good option. And, they get a ton of turns, so I was hoping at least I could take down a few of the bounty hunters and sort of drag it down by attrition. But other than that, I didn't really know. I didn't have an amazing plan to be able to deal with my opponent's General Grievous droid squad. Like, at this level, it's just hard to have enough characters. So, ideally, I would be able to beat these bounty hunters with Ewoks, and eventually I was able to kind of drag them down. And back to the point I was kind of making earlier, my opponent had a lot of Zetas and a decent level of gear, but I absolutely did out mod them. I've put a ton of energy, literal game energy, into modding my alt account, and I actually, he's starting to catch up to my main, which is galling because my main probably spends even more resources, and my alt just keeps getting good rolls. So that's kind of nice for my alt, at least. It's amusing and frustrating. So I decided here against the General Grievous team that I needed to just kind of out attrition my opponent, and my Night Sisters are definitely a work in progress. I was reading the leadership of Talzin versus Asajj before pre-Zeta, because on my main I have the Asajj lead, and that's good enough. And frankly, I think that the Asajj lead is better than the Talzin lead in terms of just overall effectiveness if you have the Zetas. But I think that if you don't have a Zeta, probably your best bet is to use Talzin, frankly. She's got a lot going for her. She at least adds potency, and you're applying a ton of those debuffs, that the plague debuff that's so good. So here I did manage to take Zombie up to gear 10 at one point, just because there's not a whole lot of point in having a Night Sister zombie without that. And I was actually holding my own against this Grievous squad, even with his Zeta, even with all the other characters that go with it. And I realized then that Grievous just isn't really that good until he's gear 12, really. I think it's 12. I was gonna say 11, but I think 11 is false, frankly. The only reason he's good at all is because of his ridiculously high amount of health, and until you can get him up to 7 stars and gear 12 and start putting some of those gear 12 pieces on him, he really isn't going to be that much of a contributor, honestly. So anyways, my opponent was able to take out my Emperor Palpatine team. They were able to take out my Rebel friends team. That some of them are like still level 80. You can see here, they took out my Palpatine team in one hit. My Rebel friends team under Akbar for one hit, and then just ran out of steam. I mean, they put a ton on defense. I think they were just hoping that I would put a ton of things on, or keep a lot of things for offense, and really, I mean, I've just been kind of doing the same thing. So I don't know, I guess I got lucky in that sense. Like, I had just enough teams to be able to full clear my opponent. So in the finals, my opponent was actually really strong in arena. They were in the top 50, which isn't something I see in Division 7 hardly ever. They used a Commander Luke team to be able to get to those extremely high levels, like number 28. Wow. But they had an Emperor Palpatine team in the front, which is very similar to my current strategy. And then they also had a Bounty Hunters team in the front zone. So, like, basically the exact same thing that I am doing. I think that eventually I want to put Commander Luke back on defense, but I need another Transcendent offensive team. Like I need a team that's going to be able to beat other meta teams, and that's really the only team that I have that can do that is Commander Luke. And I've been mostly getting lucky so far. All the teams that I've faced are things I can beat, like a Darth Revan with wigs. I mean, it's laughable, right? I mean, it's still, I mean, Darth Revan is good enough to beat most teams on his own as long as he has Bastila, and to be fair, he did. But you know, in that last match, I've been lucky to be able to beat all these teams, and so my opponent had a lot of pretty decent teams here on defense. First order, I love that Ewoks are the first order counter from the very start. You know, like it's not like they eventually get enough gear to be able to start competing with first order, who just can't keep up or something. It's like from the very start, Ewoks can beat first order. You know, and we can see that, we showcase that, and we have like almost equal gear levels, and my Ewoks are just running the table. So you know, Ewoks, actually, it'll be pretty fun. I'm going to be working on Ewoks. I made a bet with Solo, the guy I do a podcast with, which you guys should probably check out at some point. You know, join the Discord server that we're at to find a link, and I'll put a link to the Discord server in this video description, so check that out. But I made a deal with Solo to work on Ewoks, and we're going to essentially like get all of them up to gear 13, and it on both of our alt accounts. So it's going to be really interesting to be able to see what kind of impact gear 13 Ewoks have when my alt account is such a low level. You know, and his is a pretty high level, but we just want to see what impact Ewoks will have at that high level. So kind of exciting to me. It's a little silly, but anyways, my opponent put this really strong Bosk squad, like the exact same squad that I use on defense, and you can see that Bastila is really kind of running out of steam here. My gear levels are really starting to catch up to me. The only real gear I have on this squad is I have gear 11 on Yoda and gear 11 on Ezra, and then Kenobi is like gear 8, I think, and Bastila is as well. So the goal here was just to I took an understrength squad was because in my last match I needed to be able to use full squads, and unfortunately to be able to max my banners and to be able to get a bunch of understrength wins. So I started doing stupid stuff like taking minimum size squads, which is foolish because what I could have done if I really wanted to make sure I had a minimum strength squad win, all I really had to do was hit with my main, you know, my top 5 or whatever, and take out all but one character, and then just let it time out. So I still lost, then there would only be one character, then I could take it out with, you know, some other random character. So I think this was a little bit foolish of me. I got a little bit too excited to get the understrength win thing, and really I put myself in jeopardy for the whole match. And I mean, if you lose a match, there's really not much point in having won the into having, you know, gotten the understrength victories win. And so it's really, I think that was a little bit foolish of me. But that principle does apply to other game modes, frankly, or not other game modes, but like to all other levels. Like if you need an understrength win and you're fairly confident that you're going to win your match, really you can destroy the enemy team with a team that you're confident with 5 guys, then just let it time out. You'll take a loss, but then your progress will be saved and you'll be able to just and here you just see this crazy hodgepodge of random guys that I wasn't using to be able to take this, to be able to get credit for this understrength win. And so, you know, I didn't take R2 to be with Commander Luke. The Thrawn is kind of an odd man out in a lot of teams anyways, and so I just put his leadership there just for himself. I don't really know. But all I had to do was really take out Jango, and so my hope was that I would be able to control him through stuns and fracture, and then once I was able to take him out, I didn't really have many worries about taking out Dengar, and so I got the really low banner count, 27 there, but my opponent had already made their attacks, and they had failed so many attacks on mine that really all I had to do was make sure I full cleared. As long as I could full clear, I didn't really need to worry about how many banners I'd accumulated. And so now we have the final understrength team here. If I could get this, then I would get that final last tier on that, and this is kind of fun. I was able to fight a Night Sisters team, and they were way worse geared than my own Night Sisters, which is saying something, because my Night Sisters are frankly atrocious at this level. You know, gear 8 basically all the way across the board except for gear 9 Asajj, but my opponents were worse, and so I was able to get 60 banners, which is rare for Night Sisters in general. So I was able to full clear, and I just hoped that my opponent wouldn't be able to take out my final squad. So you can see that I got the achievement or the feat, and yeah, it looked like I was gonna win. So after the match, I even before the match was all the way over, I was sub 20 in the division, which is really solid. You know, and after the fact, I saw all my defenses. They failed 3 times against Palpatine, annihilated my Bosk Bounty Hunter team. My Kira team with Gear 5 mission is still undefeated. It has never lost in Grand Arena. Please don't take that as a challenge if you ever meet me, but you know, that's a really powerful squad for this level. So anyways, I was able to get the win, and I won the whole group again. You know, more Zetas, which is great. This account can really use it. And then I was number 18 for a while. I was pretty excited. I thought maybe I would be sub 20, and in the end I got the rewards, and I didn't get the rewards for sub 20. It was something like the top, I don't know, 50 or something, whatever the next bracket is. But that's still a pretty fantastic result. And you know, the goal is always to make Kyber, and you know, you want the rewards, but the rewards are frankly probably not something you should focus on if you want to be happy with life. But anyways, this has been a really fun time with my alt, and I'm excited to show you guys more videos. The new Grand Arena Championships is right around the corner, which is why I finally got around to doing this video. And so please let me know if this is a good series or not, if you actually liked it. You know, thank you so much for watching this far, if you've gotten this far. Anyways, guys, thank you once again so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.